There's an interesting story that the Haftarah records in the Navi that I think we can extract something very important about the Holocaust, about ourselves. Um, the story, as it's recorded in the Navi, is without getting into a lot of the background. There was a procession that was bringing the Aron to Ir David. On its way, a very joyous procession, and on its way, Uzzah reached out to stabilize the reached out to stabilize the Aron, and he was immediately taken out. Hashem killed him for not trusting that the Aron can handle itself. And caused um, this caused David, the way the pasuk refers to it is that he had a charon af. He was upset. He was upset, very upset. And the next pasuk says that he had a great yira. He had the pasuk says when after he was upset, he even called the place Peretz Uzzah. Vayira David es Hashem bayomahu. So David had this great fear of Hashem. Then, 3 months later, after David declines receiving the Aron goes to the home of Obed Edom, and it brings the home of Obed Edom tremendous success. And David now brings the Aron to him, and there is an outpouring of submission to Hashem, dancing before the Aron, joy, such that it even caused Michal, the daughter of Shaul, to feel that it was too much, that the king was too exposed, that his whole soul was exposed to the people, and he should have been more restrained. So there was a difference of opinion between Michal and David as to whether he should have really let it all hang out in his joy in his relationship with Hashem. Now, I want to focus on a particular comment that the Malbim makes. The Malbim says that this when the pasuk says Vayira David es Hashem bayomahu, David had yira. It means that David did something that he had never done before. That is, that up until that point, says the Malbim, David only served Hashem mitoch joy and ava. Ava and simcha were the themes. And it was the only thing that he knew. It was the only interaction that he had with Hashem. He never had a relationship with Hashem based on yira. That was not part of his relationship. What happened now was that he suddenly felt yira. Now, yira is a lower level than ava. Joy and love are a higher level of service of Hashem, but he had this great fear. I wanted to use this to suggest a little bit of an angle that is extremely useful for everyone. Let's just summarize the sequence. David is very upset. Vayichar leDavid. David is very upset. He hears the news, sees the news, not sure whether he saw Uzzah being killed or he heard that Uzzah was killed. presumably he saw it because he was dancing in front of the Aron, and Uzzah died as he touched the Aron to stabilize it. So he was very upset. Vayichar le David. David was very upset. Then it says Vayira David es Hashem. That David had Yira of Hashem. And 3 months later, after hearing this news that the Aron has brought great blessing to this Gittite home of Oved Edomi, he is now fully engaged in the joy of dancing in front of the Aron to such a degree that Michal sees that he's absolutely transparent and questions him about it. What happened? What happened? How come this didn't result in scars? A person is upset about something, very upset. Vayichar le David was very upset. Something was extremely disturbing to him that Uzzah was killed. 3 months later, but because he heard good news, so all of a sudden the story disappeared. How does a person do that? A person has a sense of an injustice, something terrible has happened, something very frustrating, something that brings out a strong visceral reaction from him. And 3 months later, well, the Aron brings great blessing. So what happened? When a person has those kinds of feelings and they have to go to a wedding, so they go to the wedding. It's appropriate, but you can't say that they're going without any scars. They do the best they can. I think most people with an element of bitachon, etc., they're doing the best that they can. But to say that they're approaching the joyous task without any scars would be very surprising. So what happened in the interim? What is this story? And the answer is that David discovered that this thing that he was upset about was designed. Doesn't mean that it's the only reason why Uzzah died. Uzzah died, he had a cheshbon with Hashem, and his mommy had a cheshbon with Hashem, and his daddy had a cheshbon with Hashem, and his kids had a cheshbon with Hashem, and the whole world had a cheshbon with Hashem. But David understood that his upset was a trigger, an invitation to do something extra, to grow, to transcend, and to develop the thing called Yira in his Dveikus Hashem. That means, in a certain sense, David used this incident where he was extremely upset to become David 2.0. So he was David before, who only had Ava and Simcha. Then there's this incident that causes him great distress, and he understands that this distress is the trigger or the opportunity for him to enhance his Dveikus Bashem, and he becomes David 2.0. And it's not that there's scars, it's that the incident that he was upset about was utilized to become a more shalem person. The more shalem person means that he is now also has Yira. So Yira is a smaller level. Yira is a lower level, but it rounds out the picture. David is now a more complete Oved Hashem. He is now more Davek in Hashem. He is now more able to relate to Hashem in the fullest sense of the word, because he's not only relating from Ahava, he is also relating from Yira. I believe that what the implications of this are very profound. Each of us has certain things in our lives, things that we hear, things that we witness, and we need to do a careful check of our pulse. So somebody who gets worked up over everything, so that they're hopeless. Leave that alone. If somebody's getting worked up about everything, just has to chill out. Just grow up, chill out. But somebody who is deeply moved, hurt, pained by something that is happening must recognize that the pain and the hurt that they're experiencing is their window into becoming themselves in the 2.0 version. Now, there's no way that you could do that 10 times a day. So we're not going to become, David HaMelech 10.0 in the course of one day. That's not possible. So it's one thing that is particularly distressing that is the window into where we are able to now grow, because the upset, the distress is the window into our growth. So this is not just the great merit of being able to say, Kol ma David Rachmana L'tav Avid, everything Hashem does is for the best, or the way that Nochamish Gamzu said it, Gamzu L'tova. That is, of course, wonderful. That's not what we're discussing. That's wonderful, and there's great merit to being able to do that. This is being able to use, to target the specific upset that the person has, to see that upset as his window into becoming the next and more shalem version of himself. This, I believe, is what the Derech Hashem is referring to when he says that every Yisurim is a takes a layer of the zuama, if you will, of that which obstructs the person from being able to fully engage with Hashem, and it brings the person to an additional level of shlemus. Now, obviously, it's gossamer, it's thin layers, one at a time, but it's the process. It's the process of not assuming that the upset is externalized. The upset is about that Hashem killed Uzzah. No, that's not the message. The message is, I'm upset about Hashem killing Uzzah, and my upset is a window into me, because that is my adversity. And by the way, I don't think that there are two people that relate to the same event the same way. Not everybody is equally distressed by each moment of adversity. Some people handle it. It doesn't necessarily make them fly off the handle. And again, flying off the handle maybe is a little bit too extreme, because maybe that means that the person is really out of control. We're not talking about something that's out of control. We're talking about something that's a deep sense of pain. I'm pained to hear about this. So there are those who try to handle it with Gamzu L'tova. Of course, there are those who handle it by just getting lost in the pain. But those who handle it with Gamzu L'tova, with Kol Ma David Rachmana L'tav Avid. But I believe that what the message here is that there's another way of seeing this. If I am particularly moved by this, then this has my name on it. This is a targeted moment where the providence, the hashgacha of what I was exposed to was designed for a particular area of shlemus in my life that I need to grow to. Because a person is not supposed to be b'charonaf. Charonaf is a window. Charonaf is not a desideratum. I mean, charonaf is a place that where the person is raw, the person is exposed. And so Michal is right. Michal picks up that David is 100% with the Aron when it's 3 months later, but not just because he heard good news. It's not like, well, there's good news and bad news, and try to focus on the good news and stay away from the bad news. It's not good for your health. Try to make a little bit of a balance in your life. Try to be optimistic and positive. No, David utilized, and that's why the pasuk says that when he had this Charon Av, the next step was Vayira David es Hashem. He used it as an opportunity to build his sense of yira, because that was what was causing him this charonaf. That was the address of the charonaf, was that he suddenly had a yira of Hashem, and with having integrated that, he now can, it's David 2.0, dancing fully with a full heart, without any reservation, in front of the Aron. This is a take-home for each of us, to do an inventory. What did I hear about? Or what do I hear about? Or what is it that causes me tremendous distress to the point where we would say, Vayichar leDavid? And to recognize that in there is the opportunity to become David 2.0. The application to the Holocaust, I think, will push off for the time being, and I think each of us needs to do our own homework on that. But the foundation, that's what the Navi is bringing out, I believe is one that we can each find useful in our own way. Have a great week.